It's another exclusive, only from DJ Michael B.
You know, one of the hardest things for me to understand is where the time goes. I couldn't believe it when we sat down to start working on this collection of songs, that it has been 10 years since I wrote my first song. I first started writing when I was 15. I'm 25 now. And when I sat down to pick the songs, well, if I could have written a book to include all the memories that go along with these songs, I would be a lot happier. And just some things that have happened in the last 10 years. When I was 15 years old, I wrote my first song. At the time, I was going to an all-girls school, a prep school, and I loved to play the guitar. I loved to sing. I was not that good. I knew about 4 guitar chords, and I squeezed every song I knew into those 4 chords. But what had happened to me was, a year before that, when I was 14, I had plowed through my Bible for the first time. And I really had come to understand that a relationship with Jesus was vibrant and necessary to my life as a 14-year-old. And that feeling just grew, obviously. And by the time I was 15, I thought, I would really like to communicate this to some of the people that I go to school with. So I started writing songs. I didn't want to be a headbanger. I wanted to tell them in the least defensive way that I knew how about how Jesus' love had affected my life. Anyway, and so the songs started coming. I've never been a prolific writer, but I've written off and on for the last 10 years. And I guess if you saw me in the studio now, it would be really different from the first experiences in the studio. To start off with, the first album that we did, I did the whole year that I was 16. It was just called Amy Grant. We recorded almost all of the vocals in pitch black dark because I was too embarrassed to sing with the lights on. You see, for me, when I got an album contract, I kind of fell into this music thing backwards. Most people get a band, beat the streets, play clubs. Well, I had never sung for anyone except for my friends at school. I'd only made a cassette tape for my mom and dad of some songs that I'd written, and without my knowing it, one of the guys from my church, a fellow named Chris Christian, called a record company in Texas and played this dinky little tape over the phone for a man named Stan Mosier. Well, Stan just happened to be vice president of Word Records. Well, he called me up and said, kid, we like your style, and we'd like for you to do an album. The funny thing is, I thought that the phone call was a practical joke. And so, that sort of simple beginning was the way I fell into the music business. I never thought about being a singer. I never thought I would sing for people that I didn't know. But I started to. We recorded the first album, like I said, the whole year that I was 16. And when I was 17 and a half, spring break of my senior year in high school, the first album came out. I remember the first concert I did was at a place called Lakeside Amusement Park in Denver, Colorado. I didn't have a booking agent. It never crossed my mind that anybody would actually want me to come sing in person. And so the way that the people from the park got in touch with me was that they called Brown Bannister, my producer. I'll never forget the day I came up to the studio and Brown said, "Amy, you are not going to believe this. There's some people in Denver, Colorado." Mind you, we were in Nashville, Tennessee. "There's some people in Denver, Colorado. They want you to come sing at an amusement park for $300. Now see, this was the summer after my senior year in high school. I was saving up money for my freshman year in college. I didn't have to pay for my schooling, but I was going to have to pay for all the fun I hoped to have. And I remember looking at Brown and thinking, Brown, I love to sing, but if I blow $300 on this one trip to Denver to sing for these people, I'm only going to have $200 left in my bank account. That's not going to be much to start school with." He looked at me like I was some kind of an idiot. He said, "No, Aim, you don't get the picture. They pay you to come sing. You don't pay them." Needless to say, my business sense was a 0 when I first started, and I don't know if it's much better now, but that's why I've got a manager. And that began the illustrious career. It was a horrible concert. I think I walked off the stage in tears, and I realized that I had to work a lot harder if I was going to be able to command an audience. I think my second concert, okay, I'm not going to go through my whole life, but this is just telling you why it was so much fun to go back. The second concert I did was at a place called the Will Rogers Auditorium in Fort Worth, Texas. This was September of my freshman year in college. I remember I got on stage, I sang for about an hour and 15 minutes. I sang every song I knew. And I looked at my watch and thought, oh, gee, it has been an hour and 15 minutes. There are 1,000 people here, and they all paid to get in here. And I thought, what do? Do I walk off stage? I mean, it seems like kind of a cheap concert, an hour and 15 minutes. And I thought, well, I might as well be honest with them. And I just looked out at this sea of faces, none of which I knew. And I said, you know, guys, I have sung every song that I know, and I don't know any more songs. And this group of kids up in the balcony shouted down, sing them over again. And not having any more stage presence than I had, which was not much at all, I picked up my guitar and I started that list over again. So, I started with a pretty incredible financial sense, great stage presence, and began hacking away at the last 10 years. The last 10 years has brought me face to face with millions of people through concerts. I met my husband through music. I got a song in the mail one time from a fellow from a small town in Texas. It was a song called My Father's Eyes. And I remember I sat down and listened to that tape and thought, gee, the guy that wrote that must be the most sensitive person in the world. I met him and found out that he was actually quite rowdy, had a great sense of humor, and his sensitivity was buried somewhere deep inside, but it eked out when he picked up a guitar. His name was Gary Chapman. And I am now Mrs. Gary Chapman, especially when I'm home at the farm in Tennessee. That big experience, the wedding, meeting Gary, came about with my second album. It's called My Father's Eyes. We didn't actually get married until years later in the midst of a record called Age to Age. And I really think that album, Age to Age, was a turning point for me. I finished school, 4 years of college, didn't graduate, dropped out. But I had found the man that I wanted to spend my life with. I didn't have the pressure of classes, and I guess I felt like for the first time I could really zero in on my music and concentrate on what I felt like would probably be probably one of the hardest things I'd done in my life, was to build upon the ability that God had given me with music and to communicate with kids. That communication and that building from that point on started the summer of 1982. And God has been faithful. Kids are still coming. They don't call me AIM anymore and come up and slap me on the shoulder. A lot of them call me Miss Grant, and I can't believe I'm 25 years old. But like I said, the hardest thing for me to understand is where the time goes. That's what's so nice for us about putting out this collection. Because through these songs, we have a chance to reminisce, and people that have listened to my songs for years hopefully will have a chance to reminisce. And I don't know how you feel about where you've come from, but I feel like all of us are very much a product of what we've come from. And for me, the songs help to capture the good times and the growing times and the little bits of truth that we picked up years ago that I don't want to lose. And so I present the collection to you to remind you again, hey, this is where we came from. Jesus has changed our lives. Now who do we want to be in the future? For me, I tell you what, as a young woman in the 1980s, I'd like to be someone who affects my culture. I'd like to be someone that has a voice in the music realm. You know, it seems like a lot of music that's become popular these days doesn't speak so much from the bulk of American opinion as I would like for it to. It seems like a lot of the positions on sexual morality, on marriage, on truthfulness, on faithfulness, to a boyfriend or to a mate or to parents. And I just don't feel like pop music always reflects that. And I feel like the doors have been opened up for me to possibly have the opportunity to speak to my generation about where a lot of us feel like it's important to live a godly life, and for our art to reflect that. And I really hope I have the opportunity to do that in my songs. So in years to come, you might hear a song from me that is Jesus Loves Me in a revised edition, or you might hear a song that's just about everyday living from a Christian perspective. But I hope my songs are always uplifting. That's been my prayer since I was 15. The Amy Grant collection that we've put out this summer goes all the way back to the beginning. Depending on whether you buy the record or the cassette or the CD, you will get more or less songs, because each of those different types of medium each one can only handle so many songs. On all three, we've put 2 new songs. The one I'd like to talk to you about is a song called Stay for a While. It's a song that Michael Smith and Wayne Kirkpatrick and I wrote. It's a song that's on the opposite side of this disc. And for me, the song basically, Michael and Wayne wrote the music, and Wayne and I wrote the lyrics. And the song basically says, we have known each other from the time we were kids. Hopefully we haven't totally lost our innocence. Hopefully we haven't lost the tenderness of youth and the excitement of discovering what life has to experience. There have been good times and there have been bad times, but when I look at you, it reminds me of who I am. It reminds me of where I've come from, and it reminds me of where I want to go. And really, the thought behind that song is the thought behind this whole collection of songs. To reminisce and say, you know what, this is an Ebenezer. God has brought us this far, and this is only the beginning. And so I hope you enjoy it, this song Stay for a While, and the collection, because it's definitely from my heart to yours. This is Amy Grant. Thank you for your time. God bless.